everyone. It's great to have you. Welcome to Hult's Virtual Skills Lab webinar on mapping your career in your city with Katharine Boshkoff. This session is going to last roughly 45 minutes, and we will leave 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the session for questions. So please feel free to input any of your questions into the Q&A function or the chat box, excuse me, just at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Now, before I hand this over to Kathryn Boshkoff today, I am going to show you a quick video and then I will hand it over to her.
When the job market is this competitive, you need a degree that'll make you stand out. With Hult's dual degree, you'll stand out not just once, but twice. 18 months of study, 2 world-class degrees, twice the challenge.
Waiting to do the quiz.
Twice the knowledge. Twice the ideas.
We've got 10 minutes to do it. Guess what?
Twice the network. Twice the fun. With Hult's dual degree option, you'll have twice the opportunities, twice the achievement, all wrapped up into one incredible school experience.
Great. All right, I will now hand this over to you and allow you to share your screen.
All right. Here we go.
Looks great.
What do you see? Does it say map your career in your city?
Looks great.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, it's great to be talking to you guys today. I so love talking to our students before you get to campus so that I can give you some advice and make an impact, get you an early start. So we're going to talk today about location and how that impacts your job, because location is not the same everywhere. Some job markets are fantastic, some not so much. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, I've convinced you of that. So I'm Kathryn Boshkoff. I run the Global Careers Organization. Before Hult, I was a venture capitalist and a technology advocate in Silicon Valley. I'm also an entrepreneur. My very first job was starting my own company. So I come from Silicon Valley and I spent most of my career there. And then I said, I need to do something in education. And I picked Hult because it's just a fantastic place. I started as a teacher and I taught strategy and innovation, and I bring all that thinking to careers. So you're going to see a little strategy in this presentation because I'm going to talk about markets and possibilities for you. We have a fantastic team here at Hult ready to support you. So I'm going to talk about a number of markets. This is the global team. It spans all of our campuses. Wherever you are in Hult, we can support you, and you probably will move from one campus to the next. You can move from one advisor to the next if you would like. So we have experts in all the markets I'm going to talk about today. And at the bottom of the chart, we have executive coaches who are working with our EMBAs. And on the left-hand side, we also have MBAN coaches from industry who are working in AI, and they bring their industry contacts and they coach you one-to-one as practitioners. So they're there for you also. So there's a big bench. We're ready for you. We can't wait to see you in the fall. Okay, so let's see how much you know. I like to start with a few quiz questions. Can we bring the quiz up here? And the question is, which campus had the largest percentage of international grads land jobs in the region? So that means around the campus. Which one? Boston, okay. Boston, okay. Dubai, Boston's leading. Then we got London. Boston's still leading.
80% have voted. So if we want to give it just another 3 or 4 seconds here.
Okay, we're done. So the answer is San Francisco. So not what you were thinking. San Francisco is a fantastic market. 80% of the students who got jobs were working around the campus, probably within 30 miles of the school. So it's a huge market, and I'm going to talk about that today. Let's do the next one. So Dubai, what do people do when they work in Dubai after graduation? If you want to stay in the region, what's the most common job? Yep. Consulting, yep.
About 65% have voted. So if you want to do another 3 or 4 seconds here.
Okay, all right. So you actually did pretty well on this one. It's sales director. So one of the things we'll talk about is Dubai is a regional hub running sales in the region as well as into Africa. So there are a tremendous amount of great jobs in Dubai in the area of business development and sales. So that's good. You guys are close on that one. Next one. Fintech. So fintech is technology that we use in banking and finance. It's like Venmo, PayPal, digital wallets, Bitcoin, Ethereum. It's a huge business, lots of opportunity for Hult graduates. So where are the big places for fintech? If you want a fintech job, where should you go?
All right, another 5 seconds here.
Where should you go? Okay, we're done. The answer is San Francisco and London. So San Francisco, due to venture capital and startups, is the #1 place for fintech. And London is #2. New York is #3, by the way. So not so far off at the top. All right, our last question is, okay, you're in Boston. What are the top industries in Boston? Where might you get a job? You can choose 3. So if we've set this up correctly, just keep pushing, and yeah, you should be able to vote 3 times. So we've got 1, biotech, healthcare, yep, education, tech. Oh,
All right, we'll give it another
good stuff.
5 seconds. 2, 1. We're going to close it out.
Okay, the answer is education, because of all the schools, healthcare, because of all of the hospitals and the medical research, and finance insurance, which you guys got. So bang on. So it's not intuitive that a number of jobs would be in education and healthcare. We'll talk about that. All right. So good start. This is the premise of what I'm going to talk about. When choosing a campus, also consider how that region supports your employment, because it does vary. It's not the same everywhere. Some places, if you're an international wanting to work outside your country, some places are better than others. In some places, jobs are different. Depends on what you want to do, where you should go. So think about your location. Secondly, we have a full stack of fantastic degrees for you. So the second thing you have to choose after location, I would argue, is which degree or degrees would you like to do? So you can do a first-year degree. You can choose to do a specialization with that. If you're interested, you can do an internship. Following that, you may want to do the dual degree. And if you did your first degree in the United States, you may do an additional 6-month internship. So if you do your first degree and your second degree in the United States, you will have done 9 months of work in the US by the time you finish. That's a tremendous benefit right there. You've had 9 months to build contacts, to network, to get skills on your resume. It's a huge benefit, but I'm going to repeat because this gets lost. You have to do your first degree in Boston or San Francisco to have that option. If you do London or Dubai, it doesn't work out from a visa perspective. So lots of choices for you. I hope that today, as we go through this, you get some more clarity on what you might choose for your options. All right, so I want to talk about cities. Here you've got San Francisco, the Silicon Valley, my home. I grew up in the Valley. The state of California is actually the 5th largest economy in the world. So it's probably bigger than your country, unless you're from China, Japan, Germany, or the United States. After all of those comes California. So we have a huge GDP. We are driven by technology as well as some manufacturing. But right now, you can see on this page, there are 7,800 startups in Silicon Valley. So it's just chock full of opportunities. And then those startups are in IT, Fintech, as I talked about before, social media. It's a super strong job market. In fact, this is a dream job market, as it said we were talking about in the video. It's a demanding market, but there are a lot of jobs. It's a good time to be you, because you're going to get the skills demanded by the post-COVID economy, and there is work for you. So especially in San Francisco, where digital is what drives the area and digital is what stayed alive during COVID, there's a lot going on. So I would definitely say, think about it. Okay, in case you didn't know this, here's the ranking of cities for startups. If you're a startup person, I'm all about empowerment. So I will tell you where I got my data. You are welcome to go there and do your own research. But as you can see here, San Francisco is a great place. And then some people haven't figured this out, but New York is the East Coast Silicon Valley. So what we see happening is startups and big tech are starting to go where the people are. And we don't just have startups in San Francisco anymore. We have I would say about 3,500 startups right now in New York, half the size of San Francisco, but plenty for us. Then you can see some of the other areas. So San Francisco, in terms of go to market, how did people get jobs last year and the year before? Remember, these are the COVID years. We did really well. So 80% of San Francisco folks graduated and worked in the US and within probably range of the campus. They use the alumni network. So in San Francisco and the Silicon Valley, those 24 alums are people like you. They came here as an international, they got sponsored, they stayed, they know what it's like to be you, and they come back to Hult to hire. So it's a very loyal alumni base. They're here to help you, and they helped our San Francisco students and others get jobs. The second thing is do an internship. Internships convert at about 65%. So as I mentioned in that slide a couple ago, you can do a 3-month internship in the summer. You do a 6-month internship in your second degree. That's 9 months of internship time to impress an employer to convert to a job. And then startups tend to sponsor more than big companies. So the possibility of a sponsorship is also there for you. The last thing is the programs in San Francisco match nicely with what employers want. So there's the entrepreneurship degree, the social entrepreneurship degree, all the MBAN work. Those are skills you're going to see are in demand in the region. And here, this is off of LinkedIn. So this is real data. This is the truth of what we're looking for right now. I wanted to point out JavaScript is the #1 skill in demand. Why might that be? Because there's a lot of data analytics going on here. And you can see data analysis also in demand, Tableau, Agile, nonprofit, machine learning. Most of these that I've asterisked are not on the other slides for the other areas. So these are more in demand in California because there's more need for data analytics and people capable of working with technology. You still see all of your business skills, operations, team building, program management. You still see those, but there's a bit more on the tech side in terms of the people that we're looking for in the region. So important to think about, because if you're a person that either has or wants to get technical skills, this could be a great market for you. And it was for Nimisha. Nimisha did the 1-year MBAN. She's at McKinsey. So she has a fantastic job. She got the job before she graduated. She did come in with a technical background. She went to Cal Poly, which is a computer school in California. She is good in science. She's good in math. She did the MBAN because she wanted more skills in analytics, and she got them. So I think it's a great example of where some of our MBAN students end up. And she's also, I will say, she worked really hard. So she's good in science and math, and she also really took the MBAN to heart and got it the most that she could out of it. So a fantastic outcome. Okay, I want to switch over to London. This is a cool city right now. London used to be known for finance, and then we had Brexit, and a lot of finance left and a lot of other things came in. So we've now got a lot of startups in London and Fintech, as we talked about, traditional companies also. I think it's one of our most blended markets. It has the most diversity. So it's a pretty broad market, and I'll show you some slides on that. Also, due to Brexit, there are no people to do the work in London. Or you probably heard about they don't have people to drive the gas trucks, so they're going to have a gas shortage. So Brexit has really disrupted supply and demand, and there are more jobs than there are people. So this means that 2-year post-grad work scheme, number 3, that you can get, you can put, you most likely will get a job. You will be able to work in London for at least 2 years. That's the equivalent of OPT in the United States. So no matter what job you get, you can get that. If you do your degree in London, you can get 2 years of work experience. So that's something to consider. So how did our London students get jobs in the region? Again, they use the network. Our biggest alumni network is in London. And those are people from Europe. There's some people that, some Americans, but it's primarily a European group from the pre-Brexit days. We also have very strong employer partners in that region with big companies. And then they networked in the city. That's really to their advantage. And I want to show you who's hiring. So this kind of supports my comment that it's a blended market. Look at the variety here. So we've got Accenture Consulting. We've got Facebook. Facebook has a lab there, as does AWS, which, by the way, was our biggest employer last year. AWS hires everywhere. Europe, LATAM, US, everywhere. They cannot get enough talent. So when you look at London, you see a pretty good diversity from tech to banks to industry and consulting. And when you look at the roles in demand, that Facebook, AWS has skewed software engineering to be more important than it was before. And London is also, they're doing a lot of internal builds, building digital solutions. So there's demand there. But after software, you see those are all of our traditional business jobs, and a nice blend from project manager to account manager, which is a customer facing job, to account executive, which is again a higher level customer facing job, business analyst, marketing manager, product manager. So a really good variety of roles. So I think it can be a good market for if those are things you want to do. So we've got Brexit, which has limited capacity. We've got tech, which is driving the economy, and we have a variety of roles for you in London, if that's where you choose to go to school. Here's the skills in London. So JavaScript, here you see it as number 3. In San Francisco, it was number 1. And you see a little bit more account management, sales management above it. Please note, I've scored a couple other things. Email marketing, if you do email marketing, this is the market for you. Everybody else has moved on, but email marketing is the top thing in London. So if that's your passion and your expertise, go to London because it's in demand. You also see data analysis in demand. And then again, the stack of business skills that we see in some of the other areas. I think it's also interesting product development. That's an indicator from the startups building new product, as well as the bigger companies are building internal systems to take them fully into the digital economy. Okay, so Andrea is an MBA and an MIM. He is working in London at a fantastic company called Athenian. So Athenian is an example of a startup you would want to work at. They just closed a $150 million round, so that's good money in the startup world. Athenian is a crowdsourced research platform. So what they do is, like during the early COVID days when nobody knew where the COVID was, people were putting their data into Athenian, and we could see from around the world what was going on. So it's an interesting technology for the times we live in. And Andrea uses his business skills from the MBA as well as business development. So one of the benefits of a startup is your career goes fast. You get to do a lot of different things. And he's combining those business skills, core business skills, as well as his marketing savvy from the second degree. So that's an example of someone using both their degrees. And in fact, that's when you do 2 degrees, that's what happens. You use both of them. So it broadens your available skill set for an employer. Okay, now on to Boston. So Boston is the medical research capital, #1 in the US for medical research. That's because we've got a lot of hospitals there. We have medical schools there. We have MIT generating lots of technology and medical research, also known for biotech. So again, out of MIT and some of the other schools, a lot of advanced pharma research. You'll see Moderna, which is one of the vaccines we've got globally, came out of MIT and has been spawned and grown up in Boston. It's in the top 20 for fintech. It's not 1, 2, 3, but it does have some fintech at a smaller scale. And then it has technology, but the technology is out of these research institutions. So it's pretty sophisticated, robotics, AI. So if you're going to play in this technology sector, you probably already did technology in your job, and you're probably pretty good at it because the bar is high. Where we see, students from MIT and many of the other schools going onto the market with deep technical backgrounds. So you've got to keep that in mind when you think about working in Boston. So these are the primary big businesses in Boston, and it's reflected in the big hiring companies. So no surprise, we've got Massachusetts General Hospital. Moderna is hiring a lot of people, biotech. Beth Israel Hospital hiring people. Dana-Farber hiring people. So as a business student, you need to keep in mind that this is where a lot of the work is. You can still make a living and have a great life, but you've got to figure out how you fit into healthcare or how do you fit into tech. And that's just the kind of the context. Those are the business skills you're going to need in doing those jobs. So the jobs are in line with where most of the business is in the area, and Farmers Insurance also, you can see. So what happened with our Boston grads? So what they did is some of the students stayed in Boston and worked in healthcare, education, tech. Some of them did internships all over the country. Some went to San Francisco. Some worked down the East Coast. So the East Coast of the US is small. So it's very easy for you to get from Boston to New York or Boston to DC. You just take the train. It's like commuting into London. So because it's so compressed, it's easy to run, it's straightforward to run a job search in one of these other areas. And as you know, we do have a New York rotation center in the summer. So when it's open this year, if you're in Boston, you should definitely consider rotation to New York City, where there are a lot of jobs. So when we look at Boston, we see Boston plus East Coast plus going to San Francisco, because not everybody wanted to work in healthcare and biotech. We have a very diverse student population. There are other jobs. I'm just speaking about where the majority is, because big markets have lots of jobs. So there are other jobs, but the bigger markets reflect where what most of the job postings will be. So this is a really great example of success. We have an MBA, just did 1 degree. Aurelio, he took his business skills, he did supply chain analytics, by the way. He specialized in that. So he took his business skills and his supply chain skills, and he's in biotech. So he became very familiar with biotech. He talked to his career advisor, who said, look, the jobs are in biotech, healthcare. Why don't you go target those with your supply chain skills, which is exactly what he did. And so he's doing a fantastic job in Boston with his business skills, supply chain, He's in the region. So that's an example of what success might look like for you. At the same time, we have a lot of students who went to New York City. And you see the beacon of immigration there, that's Our Lady. New York City is now the second largest ecosystem for startups. That means there's a lot of them there. It is big on fintech. There's a lot of fintech business there. There's also traditional finance. And then we see these technology, AI, machine learning, cyber, really coming out of banking, because those are security systems required around all this financial infrastructure. So it's a good market. There's a lot of funding there. And as I mentioned, about 3,500 startups and more on the way. So let's look at who's hiring. And it does indeed reflect some of the trends I just talked about. So you can see some of the big banks, Morgan, Citi, then we see Bristol Myers Squibb with corporate headquarters there. Then we see Facebook. So Facebook just opened a facility there because Facebook's saying, how can I get more people? I've kind of saturated California. So they're opening a lab in New York. You'll also see AWS is on there. So second from the bottom, AWS is having the same problem. They can't get enough people. So AWS says, okay, I'm going to go where the people are. There's a lot of people in New York City. So we're seeing big tech come in addition to the financial services type companies. So, you know, an indicator of who's hiring, all these guys are hiring right now. And what they're looking for is, you know, typical business. Here you see again, these are the skills. JavaScript, again, up at the top, that's because of Facebook and AWS. They're looking for some coders. But what you see, I've started for you, account reconciliation, financial analysis, GL, that's because of the financial sector. So the skills in need are driven by the businesses in the area. So with Facebook and AWS, we're seeing technology, we're seeing data analysis. With the fins in the area, you see those traditional account skills. And then account management and sales, your standard business skills, operations, team building, all the things you learn in an MBA or MIB, also in demand, because generally there's a talent shortage. So every city is trying to hire talent to participate in business. This is an example of a Boston student, Michaela, who did the STEM MBA. So that's the 1-year MBA with a STEM specialization in the elective period. And you also take a different course during the year. It allows you in 1 year to do all your core MBA plus get the analytics. So Michaela came in, having worked at Accenture for 4 years, she was already pretty technical. She had the Python and the R, so she knew how to extract data. She realized she needed business analytics, so she was looking to top up her skills, but she didn't need to do the whole degree. She just needed a piece of analytic skilling, so that's what she did at Hult. She was also a fantastic student, Dean Scholar, worked really hard. The STEM MBA is not, I would say, a cakewalk. That's in the US language, not an easy thing. You really have to focus, and she focused and she did really well. So she is now in a 6-figure consulting job at Deloitte. She did it on 1 degree, not 2, because she already had a lot of the skills that are in the 2nd degree. So she was able to top it up. If she hadn't already had the skills in the dual degree, she would have taken that 2nd degree. So when you think about the degrees, and I know you have a lot of choices, you really should keep in mind where you want to be at the end and what skills you need, and make sure you get the ones that are going to serve you best. Okay, so here's a different perspective on New York. Ayesha has the dream job that everybody wants. She's a portfolio analyst. That means she's in iBanking. She's at Microvest, which is a crowd-funded social investment firm. So she's doing portfolio analysis. She's in venture capital. She's investing in socially worthy causes. It couldn't be any better than that. And she did the MIB with the MFin. So she was early in her career, and she needed to really bulk up her financial analysis skills, which you need in portfolio analysis. So she was pretty focused that that's what she wanted. So she did 2 degrees. She also did a couple internships, which helped her marketability. She's early in her career, but she's gotten the job that many dream of. And she was also a fantastic student. So 2 different ways to get to New York, one with 1 degree, one with 2. So you can do it either way. Okay, now I want to finish up and talk about Dubai. Dubai is a market that is changing. So Dubai needs to diversify from oil. They see the future and they understand that they have had an oil-based economy. They understand that they need to change. And the UAE vision is a document that lays out lots of investment, especially in digital. And they are working on building their economy in digital. There's something called Expo 2021, which has a number of regional businesses coming into Dubai, talking about the future and attracting talent. Something else that Dubai's done, which I think is just totally cool, only Dubai could do this because Dubai government has so much money. They're building local flavors of mega businesses. So I'll show you a slide on what those are, but an example is instead of having Amazon in Dubai, they're building their own version of Amazon. So those are companies that we partner with to help you get work in the region. And I'll show you what those are. So for the folks in Dubai, how did they get their jobs? They networked with the alums in the region. It really helps if you're multilingual. It really helps if you have prior experience in the Middle East or an emerging market like Africa. And you need to be flexible because there's no minimum wage in UAE. There's minimum wage in the United States, so we can't pay you less than a certain dollar amount. It's different in the UAE, so you might start at a number that you didn't think you were going to start at, and then work up to that income you want. So flexibility is key. Understanding the market is key. Oh, here's an example of some of the homegrown versions. So Noon is funded locally and it's like Amazon. So you're not going to see Amazon in Dubai. You're going to see Noon. We partner with them. We're collaborating to get our talent into Noon. As I mentioned before, Amazon's our top employer. They want what we have. Noon is just like Amazon. It's the Dubai version of it. So Edis Salat is like T-Mobile. So it's the Dubai telco. Walmart, which we have over here, is like what we see from the Chalhoub group and the Fatim group. So they're doing distribution of multiple products. Walmart is a place that is like the clearinghouse for every product in the world. We don't have Walmart in Dubai, but we have these 2 businesses distributing consumer products. So again, when you go to Dubai, be creative in your thinking about the brands and who you want to work for. And the Dubai government is putting money into these enterprises, basically building the economy locally. So that's an advantage for you. There are interesting jobs there. Okay, so this is from LinkedIn. What kind of jobs are being recruited right now? What you see here is sales and business development at the top. Account executive, that's a customer-facing sales job. Sales executive, project manager, chef, because they all have private chefs, salesperson, account manager, software engineer, business development. So the logic, what's driving all this sales hiring? And if you think about it, Dubai is the distribution hub for many major enterprises into emerging countries. It also is a consumer economy. So they need salespeople to get product to people who live in Dubai. So there's a lot of economic activity around acquiring things. And there's also economic activity around distribution into emerging markets. So it's a fantastic place to be if this is a discipline that you're interested in, because there's a lot of work there. And you saw that earlier when I said, what's the #1 job in Dubai? You know, our students are finding success in what is the most common job. And you can see here, the skills do align with what we see in the economy. So something that's interesting, no asterisks. There's no data analysis, there's no JavaScript. Data analytics is not yet a big thing in Dubai. So other things are. So account reconciliation, accounts payable, those are things in finance, sales management, operations management, merchandising. That's a core skill in Dubai. We didn't see that in any other of our regions. So that's, again, because it's a consumer economy. Marketing strategy, you need a marketing strategy to promote product to customers. Account management, customer support, business relation management, that's for B2B selling. So the skills in demand reflect the local economy and what they need to drive their economic engine. And Shubham is working in Dubai now. He's a fantastic student, and I want to close with his story because just did everything. He did everything right. He just did 1 degree. He has an MBA in business analytics. He started in Dubai. He engaged with the career folks from the very beginning. He actually went to the most employer sessions I've ever seen a student go to. So he went to 91 different sessions. So employers recruit online, and you can go talk to PwC or Procter & Gamble, L'Oreal. They're recruiting online. That's called a session. He went to 91 either employer sessions or educational sessions or alumni presenting. He consumed as much as you can consume. And he just was like this sponge for experiences and learning. And he wanted to work in Dubai, and he was working on that market. And he then said he was going to hedge on Dubai. And he went to Boston for the summer to work on getting into Canada, which is another really good market, easy immigration, and we support our students to go into Canada. So he had a Canada strategy, and he was like, well, maybe I'll get a job in Canada, maybe I'll get a job in Dubai. I'm going to work both those plans at the same time. So while he was working the Canada strategy, which involved immigration into Canada, we got a lead from Sony Africa. And Sony Africa contacted Hult and said, we need talent to help distribute Sony product into Africa. So that's the strategy of Dubai's the hub for these Western businesses bringing product in locally. They interviewed him. They loved him. He's now the sales manager for Sony. He lives in Dubai, his territory. He has a number of countries in Africa that are his territory. So he's selling into Africa from Dubai. He has a fantastic life. And he's also, you can see, he's got lots of great skills too. So I think that's an example of what you could be in Dubai, and a really great outcome in sales, doing something interesting from the region that he wanted to live in. So I always encourage you guys to do your own exploration, learn, do your own. This is where you can go to explore your own country, your own city. You can see what's going on in your economy. You can watch the economies as they change this year. You use it to make a decision about where you want to live. So the tool's there for you. And my team is there for you. So I've said a lot about different cities in a short period of time. Everybody on my team thinks the way I do. So we're thinking about where can we help you get the job you want. And so we have a fantastic team ready to support you in job search, whether it's in one country or two, whether one city or multiple. We're there for you, and we love to do this, and we're really looking forward to seeing you in the fall. And finally, I just wanted to wrap this up and try and simplify these countries for you, campuses. So Boston, what you need to think about is you've got that whole East Coast at your disposal. It's a small area with a lot of work. So Boston is a city next to New York City, next to DC, next to New Hampshire, not so far from Virginia. So Boston opens up a possibility of a region for you. San Francisco, Silicon Valley growth, huge economy, 5th largest in the world, startup haven, fintech, lots going on. Startups tend to sponsor. So if you're looking to get sponsored in the US, always great to think about Silicon Valley. London, that market I said was as an interesting generalist market. Fintech is one of the strongest things in London, But there are other things like media, finance, we talked about that. And then Dubai, I would say from oil onward. So that's a market to watch. They are going to move out of oil. The government is going to put money into digital. There are going to be new and interesting jobs, and it's a huge sales funnel into the region. So if sales is something you're interested in, lots of work there for you. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Great, thank you so much. I know that someone did have their hand raised earlier. Please feel free to input any questions that you have in either the chat function or the Q&A box. I know we already have someone asking about the dual degree program, but if you have any specific questions for Katharine here, then please feel free to, again, input them in the chat function.
I'd like to answer this medical student question. I don't know if it's, I'm a medical student and I'm looking to do a rotation, or if it's, I'm a medical student and I'm looking to do something in business. And if you're a medical person and you want to combine it with business, this is a great time. We actually had a doctor in our MBAN program, and what he ended up doing was going to a healthcare startup. He was sponsored. He's very well compensated. And he uses his medical skills with AI. They're doing predictive analytics around disease because he wants to stop disease before it gets a hold of you. So he's again trying to make an impact on the world using his medical degree with his MBAN.
It's a really good example. I've spoken with him before. Interesting background.
Yeah, he's great.
Okay, wonderful. Do we have any other questions from attendees? Again, feel free to input them in the chat function here. A quick side note, I know that Wilbur was asking about the dual degree program and just learning more about it. If you have any questions, I can connect you with your individual director of enrollment. If you can please email me, I'll give you one email here. Then I can forward your information along to your specific, again, director of enrollment, and they can reach out to you. All right, we'll give everyone just a couple more seconds here to input any questions that you may have. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for this session. I love how you broke that down to each campus. Really, really interesting. And thank you everyone for joining today's session as well. It was wonderful to have you all. If you're interested in any more of our virtual skills lab webinars, please feel free to go to hult.edu/events and sign up for more of our sessions. We have wonderful Hult professors hosting each of these. And if you're interested in any of our other events, such as our Global Campus Virtual Open House events, where you'll be able to meet with campus deans, career services, student services, and Hult alumni or current students, then again, please feel free to go to hult.edu/events. And I'm just going to put that in the chat function here. And let's see, it looks like we do have one question in the Q&A. I have my first degree in management and I am thinking of pursuing master in international business administration and business analytics. Does that in any way go along? Do you mean do those?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Those go together really well. That was that's close to the example I gave of Ayush, who's in New York City now as a portfolio analyst. She came in and she did the general management degree, the MIB, and then she did, she actually did finance. She didn't do business analytics, but it was a really nice combination of getting the general skills and then getting these targeted hard skills that are in great demand right now. So I think that's a really interesting, it's a really good combination. You definitely should talk to your enrollment advisor about your background, how deep your management degree was, and then what are you thinking about potentially after graduation? Nobody needs to know, but a hunch is always helpful. And then your enrollment advisor can support you in making the right choices.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you so much again. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much, Kathryn. I really appreciate you taking on that session.
Yeah, thank you. Good luck, guys. I hope to see you next fall. Okay, take
Thanks.
good care. Bye.